What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this time we're going to be covering Glass, the third and final chapter in M. Night Shyamalan's superhero trilogy, which consists of Unbreakable and Split. Speaking of Split, I am very split, no pun intended, on Glass. It has things that I liked, and after a third viewing, it has things that I just don't like. Let's start off with the positives first. The acting. James McAvoy, Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, and Sarah Paulson, the four main characters, they all did a very, very good job in the acting department. Samuel L. Jackson is as good as ever as Mr. Glass, and you can tell that he has been waiting for years to play this character again, and he's relishing in every moment in it. Bruce Willis, to me, this is probably Bruce Willis's best performance in the movie in quite a while, and I thoroughly enjoyed him in this. He's not in it. He's not doesn't have a whole lot to do in this movie. Bruce Willis does, but in the scenes that he's in, I was entertained by it, and I thought Bruce did a good job for what it was. James McAvoy. James McAvoy stole the show in Split, and this movie, it's no different. You cannot take your eyes off James McAvoy and how he gives every single personality their own distinct mannerisms and way of speaking. James McAvoy is just such a damn talented actor, and only he could pull off the character of the Horde, Kevin Wendell Crumb. And in this movie, he did it perfectly. We see new characters introduced from the Horde. We see the returns like Dennis, Patricia, and Hedwig, but we also see some new additions as well. And they're all very distinct and they're all very different. And I like the interactions they have with the hospital staff. it's all good stuff. The supporting cast in this movie also well done. Spencer Tree Clark returns from the first movie, now all grown up, and I thought he did fine. I like the idea of him being like the Oracle or Alfred to David Dunn's Batman. I like that little dynamic they had going on. We get the return of Charlene Woodard as Mrs. Price, Elijah's mother, and I like her addition as well, though I don't think she had enough to do. Casey Cook, played by Anya Taylor-Joy from Split, makes her return as well, and I kind of like the whole idea of this movie having Kevin and Casey have more or less have a kinship because they're both victims of unfortunate circumstances. So I kind of like that dynamic between those two, and I would like to have seen that be more further developed. Because a real friendship was brewing between those two, and I think the movie had a missed opportunity by not fully expanding on that. Production side of this movie. This movie is well shot. The cinematography looks fantastic. M. Night Shyamalan's direction is fine. He has some very unique shots that I've never seen before in a movie, where during fight scenes he has like this close-ups, and it looks like and it just has these very like zooms on the characters' faces, and it's really like it can come across as being very awkward at first glance, but when you watch it again, it's like, oh, that's innovative. It's still awkward, but it's innovative. I give it a pass. The fight scenes in this movie, for what they are, they're well choreographed. Like the first 20 minutes of this movie is actually really, really good and really, really interesting. And we get to see David Dunn as the Overseer, which is what his superhero name is, in action. And that first initial fight between the Beast and the Overseer is really entertaining. It takes place in a warehouse, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought it was great. But then the movie takes a turn, and it's up to interpretation if you think it's a turn for the better or a turn for the worse. Looking back at it, I think it's a move. I think it's a bold move, but it was not a fully executed move. So pretty much after the initial fight, they get sent to this insane asylum, and Sarah Paulson's character is pretty much trying to convince them that they're not superpowered beings, and that it's all delusions of grandeur. Now, my problem with this is that you're basically saying that everything that we saw in Unbreakable and everything that we saw in Split is you're trying to put science behind it, more science behind it, and not only that, you're making it very, very complicated. And because of that, to me, it bogs the story down, and the pacing of this movie is very, very sluggish. Yes, cool moments do happen in the hospital scene, and I like some interactions that go on, and pretty much the bulk of James McAvoy's acting does take place in the hospital scene. But it's the idea that now you're trying to say that, everything that we saw in Unbreakable and Split, you're trying to put an explanation behind it, and you're pretty much undermining all the events that happened. And I did not like that at all. I didn't like that whatsoever. I think this movie would have been better if, instead of having this doctor try to convince them that they're superpowered beings, it might have been better if this doctor knew that they were superpowered beings, and she wants to keep them out of the public eye by hiding them in an institution. And the whole movie should be about David Dunn trying to, and the whole movie should have been played out more as the doctor is the ultimate villain, in a way, because she's trying to hide the fact that superpower beings existed. And the whole idea of this delusions of grandeur thing just doesn't work for me. I think it would have been much more better if she was more or less trying to, study them more and find out how they're superpowered beings instead of trying to convince them that they are superpowered beings. It's almost as if M. Night Shyamalan is embarrassed that he's making a comic book-like movie, a superhero-type movie, and he has to over-explain himself to ground it in a sense of reality because he's embarrassed that he's doing it. That's what it comes across like me, and I wasn't feeling it. That middle section of the movie is where the movie, to me, it falls apart, and it really starts, and its story starts to get really, really muddled, very, very bogged down by just nonsense. When you could have been doing something much more interesting than what you were putting on screen. I appreciate the effort of what he's trying to do, but the whole deconstruction to me felt like he was spitting in the face of like superheroes and comic books, whether it be intentionally or unintentionally. It's all up into interpretation. But yeah, that's my biggest flaw with this movie, is that it's the fact that it took a creative direction when it had something very interesting going on in the first 20 minutes, but then that whole bulk in the institution just brought the movie down. I mean, then it leads to a climax when we get the David Dunn Beast rematch, which is very entertaining, like it was I think it was in the beginning. But then we get this other twist where we find out that this doctor has been a part of this Illuminati type thing, and that's just even more confusing. That should not have been the twist. We should have already known that the doctor was a part of this Illuminati supervillain group before the twist happened. Instead, it happens at the end of the movie, and of course, the Beast and David Dunn are killed off. But it's also revealed that during all this, Elijah has been faking being catatonic, and he actually has been playing everyone pretty much from the jump street. And what he did was, he took camera footage, he uploaded it on a separate server to the masses, and now everyone knows that superpowered beings existed. So pretty much Elijah's grand plan throughout this whole movie was to show people that superpowered extraordinary beings exist in the real world. I mean, it's a diabolical plan. It's actually a really, really good plan, and I think that should be more the primary focus than this whole Illuminati garbage, which just, to me, is, when you look back at it, it just doesn't work for me at all. I mean, the idea of people knowing superpowered beings exist in the real world, I'm intrigued by that idea, and you can definitely do more movies based off that. And the way David Dunn is killed off, you could find a way to bring him back if you want to go that far. But say if no other movies happen after Glass, as a standalone movie, Glass has got things that I thoroughly enjoyed, and it has things that I just did not care for at all. I think I illustrated the things that I liked, and I think I illustrated what I did not care for at all. So my overall grade for Glass, I'm gonna have to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Watching it for a third time, it really disappointed me this time around, and now that I have everything to sink in, there are things I would have done much, much differently. It's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's still very watchable. You have great acting. James McAvoy is as good as ever. Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis do a fine job. Sarah Paulson does a fine job. The supporting cast do a fine job. The overall story is intriguing, though it does fall apart in a lot of areas. The action scenes are well done, but they're few and far between. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Glass, the concluding chapter of M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable trilogy. If you've seen Glass, let me know what you thought about it in the comment sections below. Also, let me know what you thought about Unbreakable and Split in the comment sections below. Like this video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.